Okay, so I'm following the directions based on this web page, and I'm also making this video. So if it's easier for you to read, you can always go to this web page that's linked in the assignment, um, or you can come back and you can watch the video. So I'm making a video for this reason, but I want you all to watch this right now. So in class, I want you to watch it at least once, watch me do it. Okay. And then if you want to go back and do it, you can do it on your own. So I'm going to create new, and I'm making it, I'm going to call it, I changed it. It used to be called Waving Man, but I figured you can make it whatever you want. So I'm just going to call it Waving Person. And then it should be 5 inches by 5 inches, 72 pixels per inch, RGB color, and white background. Okay, so 72 pixels per inch, like I said, is screen resolution. So it's going to end up looking like this size. All right. So now I'm going to zoom in, and it might look a little pixely because this is bigger than actual size. It's 200%. So let's see. All right, so the first thing I need to do is I need to have my layers menu out. So I am going to put my layers menu. I'm going to put that up here so it's prominent. I'm going to get rid of this stuff because I don't need it. I'm going to get rid of this stuff because I don't need it. All right. So I'm going to first create a new file, and then I'm going to save it as a Photoshop file. So let's first save. So I'm going to just save it. Oh, I haven't done anything yet, so I can't. But after I do something, you should first save it as a Photoshop file, then you export it as your GIF. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the top menus. When I say top menus, I mean these right here. And I'm going to go to Window, and I'm going to choose Timeline. So I scroll down and I find Timeline. Okay, so now I have this thing called Timeline. And right here, it says Create Video Timeline. Make sure that that's not the one you choose. So you'll see your timeline, and you're going to go to the little drop down, and you choose Create Frame Animation. Make sure that that's the one you pick, or you're going to get a totally different looking thing. Okay, then you click right here. It doesn't really look like a button, but it is a button. So I'm going to create that. So now I'm ready to go, and I'm going to have my layers open. So when you're creating animation, you're working with your layers and you're working with your timeline, and it could get confusing. So you have to have both open, and you have to pay attention to what's on this and what's on this. So I'm gonna draw my thing. So the first thing I need to do is draw my body. So you can see right here that it doesn't have an arm. I'm going to draw this whole thing on the background because it's going to be not moving, and I'm not going to move it around. Now, if I wanted to make a fancy background, then I would draw it on a different layer. But for this, my body thing is going to be the background. So I'm going to go um, up to my brush tool, and I'm going to set my brush. So when you click on the brush tool, you get your choices up here, and I'm going to click on right here, and I'm going to choose 5 pixels, and I'm going to choose a hardness. I'm going to drag it all the way to the right to make it a hard edge, not a fuzzy edge. And if I click anywhere off of there, that will collapse. And now I'm ready to draw my person. So I'm on the background layer, and you do not have to make this fancy. We're just learning how to make it move. So you're just going to draw. I can click and hold the shift and click and click and click and let go. And then if I click and hold shift, I can click and click and let go. And then I draw my left arm, or it's the right arm, but it's the left side, so we'll call it left. Click, press shift, click, click, right? That's how you get the straight lines. But I don't care if your lines are straight. So if you want to draw them just by hand, that's fine too. Okay, so you don't have to make them perfectly straight if you don't want to. I don't care if you make a face. You can make hair if you want. You can draw some clothes on there. You can do it if you feel like you have the time, but the requirement only is just to make a stick figure. So on the background, this is how much you put on the background. Okay. Now I need to make a different layer for each movement because I'm going to create frames from the layers that I make. So my background layer just has this figure. So I have to create a new layer, and I'm going to call it wave 1. So each position is going to have a different name. So wave 1. And now I'm going to draw that arm. So you got to make sure that you're on that layer. And I'm just going to draw it so it is sticking upward. You don't want the arm to look, too weird. Like you don't want it to go all the way over here. And actually I missed the spot there. So I'm going to 4 fingers for a cartoon. So I'm going to move that arm so it's over. I'm going to just use my arrow keys and get it right on the elbow. You don't want to have like a little bump there. You want it to look smooth like this one. So put it right on the elbow. Now you can see that I have a layer with just an arm. And now I'm going to duplicate that so that I can make it look like it's moving. So I have wave 1. And now I'm going to duplicate that layer. So on my layer, I right click and I choose, or when you right click on a touchpad, you just touch it with 2 fingers and you do duplicate layer. And I'm going to change this to 2, wave 2, right? Now it's right on top of the other one. So there's another arm there. Now, make sure that you choose show transform controls or else you're not going to be able to see how to rotate it. Okay, so I'm going to click show transform controls, and I'm also going to turn off auto select on my layers just because I don't want to get confused. So it's a good idea to turn that off. Show transform controls gives you these, and these are the things that you can grab to resize, which we're not doing, and to rotate. So when you hover over, if it's a diagonal, you can resize it, or if it's a little curve, then you can rotate. Okay, so I'm gonna, well, remember I told you that the pivot point thing doesn't work. Here it's not showing up. There's a way to make it show, but it doesn't work well. So I'm just gonna rotate it a little bit, kind of like that. And then I'm gonna move it over to right on top of that elbow. And then double click, or you can click the check mark up here, okay? And I'm just gonna check it. We can hide the transform controls, and it's not quite over, so I'm going to just hit it with my arrow a little bit, see how it looks. That looks good to me. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing again. So that's position 2, and you don't want it to be too much, so I might move that back a little bit. It needs to be moved over a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to duplicate it again. Right click, duplicate layer, and I'm going to call it wave 3. And I'm going to rotate it and put it against the elbow. And if I hide the transform, no, I got to double click it, hide transform controls. Then I can use my arrow keys to move it over. I'm going to rotate it back up a teeny bit. And then I got to make one more. Right, so right click, duplicate layer, call it 4, click OK. Now, it's really important to pay attention to this part because some people forget to do this part and it looks really awkward. Because if you just have it make one wave, it's just going to go bloop, and it's going to jump back up, and it's going to go bloop, and it's going to jump back up. You want a smooth transition. So you want it to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and not jump back up to 1. You want it to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and back to 1. Okay, so now we need to make a duplicate of these 2 pieces. so that they can smoothly transition back to the original space. Okay, so now this is the part you have to pay attention to, and it's written down. So what you're going to do is you're going to duplicate wave 3, right? Because then it's going backwards. That's this one. I'm going to right click, duplicate that layer, and I'm going to call it wave 5. And I'm not going to do anything to it because it's already in the right spot. I'm going to drag it up above number 4 though. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see that 5 is the same as 3. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing with 2 because I need this one to be, whoops, yeah, 3. And then 2 needs to be up here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3, or sorry, wave 2 is going to become wave 6. So I right click. This is all written down too, if you forget. Duplicate layer, call it 6, wave 6. And then I'm going to click and drag that up above 5. And when it turns to the blue line, then you know it's above. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's going to go 1, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then back to 1. And it's going to keep repeating back and forth, back and forth. All right, well, now I have all of these hands. And the next part is to animate it. So there are menus here. This is the mini, what I call the mini drop down. That's for the layers menu. This is the mini drop down for the timeline. And it has things on it too. Okay. So I am now going to make frames from my layers. So if I click on the mini drop down in the timeline, I click make frames from layers. And what it's done is it's made a frame for every layer, including this one. Okay, so this one, we don't want it to be part of it because what'll happen is the arm will disappear. And this one, it has all the arms and they're all in the right place, but it doesn't have the background. Okay, so what you need to do is first you need to click on 2, and then you can select all of them by pressing shift and clicking on 7. So now I have all of these selected. And I'm going to unhide the background. This is where you have to be really careful. You don't want to make any changes on here. So it looks like it's not selecting anything else, but I have selected all of the layers. So now I click on the background, and now the background is showing on all of the layers. So now it's going, but because it made a layer from the background, I need to get rid of that. So we don't want this to be 1, we want this to be 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it goes back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I need to get rid of this because it's going to have no arm on it. So I select this. Do not delete anything from the layers. If you hit the delete key right now, it would delete whatever layer you have selected. Okay, so you want to make sure that you use the timeline drop down. So I click on the first one that doesn't have an arm, and I click on the mini drop down in the timeline, and I choose delete frames. Okay, and I just delete that one. Delete the frame because that's the only one I selected. Yes. Now I have all the right frames and they line up with what I have here. The background is the background. It doesn't move and it's not really part of the animation. It shows up, but it's not moving. So wave 1 through 6 are the parts and they're all showing the animation. I mean, they're all showing the different moving arm. So now if I click on the little play button, I'll get a really quick wave. So I might want to slow it down a little bit. So these little drop downs right here, you can slow down, like I could make it go fast and then slow and then fast and then slow, but I want this all to be pretty even. So if I select, I click the first frame and I press shift and I click the last frame and now see how they're highlighted. I can change the timing on all of them at the same time. So I'm going to just click on the drop down. I'm going to choose it to 0.1. It's a little bit slower. It doesn't look so spazzy. And right here, this is how many times you want it to play. You can make it play once, but who just waves like once, right? So if I press 1, it's going to go down and up, and that's it. So I want it to be on forever, and it'll just loop forever and ever. And I can play it, and it's going to do a nice little slow, smooth wave. You can make it go faster if you want to, but I'd like to see you put it about here, just to show me that you know what you're doing. Okay, and that's it. That's the whole thing. So then you want to first save your Photoshop file. So if you need to make any changes, like if I come back and I say, oh, you forgot to show this arm, why don't you go back and fix it? Then you can go fix it. But if you only save it as a GIF file, then you can't go back and edit. Okay, so first you save as file, save, and I'm going to save it to my computer, which it's going to take a minute for me to go to my computer. I'm just going to save it on my drive. Just takes so long. Okay, maybe I'll just do it here now since it's, I should have opened it first. Okay, so I'm going to save it in my CG1 folder, waving person, and it's a Photoshop file. So that's the one I can fix and edit. And I'm just going to click OK when I get this. If you don't want to show it again, leave it, just keep that checked, and you can say don't show again, but it probably will because it's virtual labs. But I have it all done, and I saved it, and I've got all the settings. So now I want to save it as a GIF file. So at first you save it as a PSD. So see, it says PSD. And now I go to File, Export, Save for Web. Export, Save for Web. And then it's going to give you this screen, and you look up here and it should default as a GIF. But if it doesn't, right here has choices. Make sure it says GIF. And then look down. Don't worry about all this color stuff. It's all set up. It's just black and white, so it's nothing that you have to worry about. But looping options forever, it should be whatever you chose. And you can preview it in here if you want to. Whoops. That just opens a web page. But you don't need to. So if you save it as a GIF, you just say save. And now it's going to go into, I have to go. So you don't have to do anything where it says images only, just leave it. It's going to save it as a GIF because I already chose that, and I'm going to put it on my computer, and I don't know why it's making me go through the hoops again, but. So I'm putting it in my CG1 folder. So now I have my GIF file in my CG1 folder. And then if I go to my CG1 folder, I can find it and add it to the Google assignment. And that's how you do the whole thing.